Shalom, good evening. This is Chanoch in Tekoa, Israel, south of Jerusalem. Welcome everyone, good evening. This is an evening broadcast. We're the day after Sukkot, the holiday of Sukkot. Hope everyone had a happy holiday. Right over here in Tekoa there was a sukkah. You can still see a little of the sukkah there. That was the sukkah of Chabad, Tekoa. This is not a Chabad broadcast. This is simply me sitting next to Chabad in Tekoa at night. But I wanted to talk about something a little bit, in a sense, related to Chabad, indirectly, and that is Russia. Russia today. Why? What's the connection to Chabad Hasidus? The connection is that Chabad comes from Russia. The city of Lubavitch was in Russia someplace, Ukraine, I don't know where. And it's a very Russian Hasidus, but that's not the point. The point is, what is going on today with Russia, and how are we in the West relating to it? I might add that my own family history is connected to Russia. My great-grandfather, when he was a little boy, left Russia with his family and came to America in 1907. And as many Jews, I have a lot of roots there, for better or worse. And so it's a little bit personal, even though I myself have no connection with Russia. My father and mother grew up in America. All my grandparents, except for my grandfather, grew up in America. And that grandfather came when he was 8 years old, so it's not like Russia was his whole life. But we know today that Russia has invaded Ukraine this past year. And the question is, how do we relate to that? How do we relate to what we did before, what we're doing during, what we're doing now? And my first thought is that the West, meaning America and Europe and Israel, was not very strong in deterring them from going in there. I understand, as my friends tell me, that we don't have so many military capabilities in that region. It's out of our realm, so to speak. Wait, I just want to show you this little kitten that came here to say hello to the class too. But nevertheless, I feel we could have done a lot more. The economic sanctions threat was not very threatening, evidently, and didn't deter them from going in. Evidently, as another fellow I know, this kitten's trying to turn over this garbage can. Another friend who I met, well, not really a friend, just someone I met in a Beit Midrash recently. He was an American who moved here recently, but he grew up in Ukraine. And so what he understood from the situation is that it's about economic things. It's about natural resources off of the coast of Ukraine and control of them, and about how the governments there in Ukraine and the neighboring areas, which used to be more aligned with Russia, have become more Western oriented and aligned, and they're afraid that they're not going to be able to exploit those natural resources there. And of course, Mr. Putin takes a very strong personal interest in the whole natural resource thing because he gets a cut of it, he gets a cut of all the strong cut. Why is he so wealthy? Because he gets a cut of all the natural resources sales of Russia. Sort of like Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority. My friend told me he and his family are involved in all the cement industry in the Palestinian Authority, and they get a cut from all the building that's going on there. So, like many dictators who make money from their regime's resources, Mr. Putin takes it very personally. And but the question more I have, what I think we should all ask too, a few questions. First is what we should have done in the West. Why didn't we call in NATO and say give a forceful threat, put troops on the border, and say, no, you can't go into Ukraine. We don't do that anymore. I mean, maybe in the 1840s, still America did something like that with Mexico, the Mexican War of 1843, whatever it was, when President Polk sort of also made an excuse to invade Mexico. And a lot of Americans were against that, but we're supposed to be not to be in that situation. We're supposed to be in a place where we don't invade other countries. So what if they lost economic assets? So they lose economic assets, so it's not the end of the world. They can do other things for money. They don't have to just sell gas. And so the question is, why didn't we stand firm and tell them that in the West? The question arises also, but before I get to the next question, that question of how America is responding today and how we're responding today in Europe and in Israel, let's ask the question, where are the Russian people? Is it true that so many Russian people really support this? My friends tell me yes. People tell me that, they really have this Russian chauvinism. Oh yeah, we should be an empire again. It's sad, but it could be like that. And listen to another thing. I don't think we responded strongly enough when Putin put the political opposition in jail. That fellow Navalny, when he put him in jail last year. That's also ridiculous. We should be standing up. This is not the 19th century. It's not even the beginning of the 20th century. It's the 21st century. And we know what's going on around. How can we pretend we don't know what's going on? We should be protest strongly if they're putting political opposition in jail for no reason. We should be protesting strongly. And I think our apathy to that also led to this situation. So what about the Russian people? What about the Russian soldiers? Do they think they're fighting for something that's worthwhile? Do they think they're fighting for something that's just? How do they feel? Well, they're just afraid. They're just afraid because this is their livelihood. Their livelihood is being a soldier. And so it's just a question of a job for them, just like all the Hezbollah mercenaries, all the foreign mercenaries that Iran has working in the Iran Revolutionary Guard to support their regime. Is that what's going on with the Russian army? Maybe yes. Looks like yes, maybe. About the Russian people. The Russian people support this type of thing? And why aren't we using our internet resources? As again, we have contact with these people. Russia is not like the one in the past where you never spoke to these people. Russians, some of them speak English. We have translate. We have all types of things. This YouTube transcribes my videos almost instantaneously. We can make videos and we can speak to Russians. Why are they supporting this? Another question about this recent sabotage, so-called sabotage on the Nord Stream pipelines underneath the sea, coming from Norway, or wherever it is, to Europe, or someplace around there. Who did that? Did America do that? Here in the Chabad, a lot of people speak Russian. A lot of them are from Russia. And I hear them talking about it in Russian. I don't really understand what they're saying. But did America do that? Did America stop it? And if so, isn't that like a little, like, sort of a nerdy response? I mean, like, why not first tell them they can't do it? Instead of just coming later and secretly sabotaging. And again, why sabotage? Why not just tell people to stop buying? Maybe because they know they won't stop buying. Europe won't stop buying. Europe wants to buy, and everyone's afraid. No one can put their money where their mouth is and say, "We're going to stop buying because you're doing something wrong." This is an issue that affects us all of us in our dealings with China. The Chinese are doing terrible things to their own people, the Uyghurs, and we keep doing business with them. This is a challenge we have in Israel. Israel selling all types of things to all types of countries. It's a ridiculous episode with the NSO, with the spyware company, which sold all types of spyware for telephones to all types of ridiculous governments, Hungarians, and who knows who, all these lowlifes. And now as no one's taking responsibility for it, they're not even talking about it in their current elections. They're all responsible. All the politicians let this happen. No one told the defense ministry not to do that. They're still trying to, on the contrary, they're still trying to convince the Americans who blacklisted them, rightly so, still trying to convince them that it's really good spyware and it's really good for fighting crime and terrorism and etc. Like you can control it, like you can somehow control what they can use it for. So we have a problem in Israel. That fact, the guy who resigned from the NSO, the head of that, now he's starting some new type of thing, business, protecting platforms or something, and he just signed on Sebastian Kurz, the resigned Prime Minister of Austria, to come represent the company in Europe. Very appropriate. They almost no show of remorse for what he's done, of selling this stuff which they never should have sold at all, which he made a lot of money selling. Now bringing in corrupt politicians like Sebastian Kurz to help represent the company. So we have our issues too. And there's a lot of business people in every country who just want to make money and are less concerned about morality, if they have any sense of morality or have a developed sense of morality. But it's sad. It's sad that this is going on today. That wars are being started like this, and we have to. I think it really comes down to being able to tell people what they can and can't do in terms of what's acceptable, what's not. To tell countries like Russia it's unacceptable to invade their neighboring countries. To tell the Chinese it's unacceptable to put their own citizens in internment camps. To tell the Iranians it's unacceptable to do all the things all the terror things they do around the world, and to try to get to do business with them, not to do business with them all the time. They're trying to build a nuclear bomb, which is all the time, and all the time they're supporting all the wars that they are around the world. It comes down to being able to tell these countries, we're simply not going to do business with you. We're simply not going to do business with you. That's really the challenge today. It's not to blow up someone's pipeline so no one can do business with them. It's to convince those countries themselves to stop buying the stuff. And to convince ourselves to stop buying the stuff, be it from Russia, be it from China, be it from Iran, or to sell things to Iran. These are the challenges of our days, to be able to put our pocketbooks where our mouths are, in terms of human rights, in terms of democracy, in terms of basic goodness and justice in the world. So this is something we can all do as consumers as much as we can, and to influence our friends and neighbors as much as possible, and the leaders of our respective governments, and the and perhaps more importantly, the owners of and shareholders of our corporations not to do business with these wicked regimes. And hopefully, if we can do a little more of that, we'll have a little more peace in the world, a little more blessing in the world. And let's hope for a healthy winter for those in the Northern Hemisphere, and a healthy summer for those in the Southern Hemisphere. Wish you a Chorif Tov, a good winter. And thanks so much for listening, and I hope we can speak soon.